Okay, finally, we're on our last video for this section. This one's really short. We just need to go through a couple of definitions. But first, I need to introduce you guys. It was weird teaching without actually having a class, so I have a mock class with us today. So please say hello to my sons, Joshua and Jonas.
Sup? Howdy.
Really, Jonas?
Not touching you.
Stop it! Okay. So thank you guys for participating. Let's talk about heat and chemical reactions. Heat and chemical reaction, there are certain chemical reactions that actually release or absorb a lot of heat. And so we want to talk about that, but and we need to define what we call those reactions first. And so there's basically two types of chemical reactions that happens. And there's two different terms that we use to describe those. There's an exothermic reaction. And so that's a chemical reaction that releases energy. Right, so far we've basically talked about physical changes that take place and energy is released or absorbed. But this is a chemical reaction specifically, an exothermic reaction. Releases energy. Think of hot hands, right? Like when when it's cold and you break those things and they get warm, that's a chemical reaction that's releasing energy. The opposite of that is an endothermic reaction. And an endothermic reaction is obviously a chemical reaction that absorbs energy. So think about those ice packs like they use in hospitals, where they break those. They're not cold to start with, and then they break it, the chemical reaction happens, and all of a sudden it gets really cold. And so that would be an endothermic reaction. Ooh, we've got a question. Joshua, you have a question?
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
No, Joshy, mayonnaise is not an instrument. Horseradish is not an instrument either, Joshua. Okay, let's get back to our lesson. The next term we need to talk about, after talking about exothermic and endothermic reactions, you may be asking, well, wait a minute. If we have a chemical reaction that produces heat, if it's releasing energy, where does that energy come from? And so let's define a couple of things that you've probably already learned about. You probably studied this in physical science. But two basic types of energy that we find in creation. One is kinetic energy, and kinetic energy is the energy that is in motion. And then the other is potential energy. That's no. And potential energy is energy that is stored. And so he uses an example in the book that, oh, wait, we got another example. So Jonas has taken this class before. He was one of my star students, so I'm sure this question is going to be good. What do you have for us, Jonas?
Do the chickens have large talons?
What?
Large talons.
I don't understand a word you just said. Okay, maybe it was a bad idea to have a mock class. Anyway, we needed to define these terms, not because we're going to elaborate much on it in this class, but this is basically going to be the topic of the next chapter. Okay, so we need to make sure we understand what that is. Kinetic energy, energy in motion, potential energy, energy that is stored. So we use this in a physical sense, the example in the book where you hike to the top of the mountain, energy is being stored up, and so you get to the top of the mountain and you've got the potential energy. And as soon as you get on your skis and you come down the mountain, or your snowboard, in my case, then you're exhibiting kinetic energy. So important that we understand both of these and understand that they're relevant in chemical reactions. That heat had to come from somewhere, right? Where did it come from? Well, there was potential energy in those molecules and in the bonds that were in the molecules, basically. And as those bonds break, that energy is released, and we have exothermic reaction. We have heat being produced. And so we'll dig into that more in the next chapter. And I don't think we'll have a mock class for that one. So you guys have a good week. Stay well, and the Lord bless you. Really, guys?
What?